Hello everyone. Today I would like to talk about two types of fusibles I usually use for my bias projects, and I do prefer one over the other one. So the first one is thermal tapes. These are the Japanese thermal tapes that come in 7 millimeters. I couldn't find anything smaller. Ideally, we're looking for 6 millimeter tape. But what I don't like about it for bias projects is that even though it's super light and it's exactly the weight that I would like to have on my bias pieces, it doesn't have the flexibility. It's actually pretty, it's not a knit fusible, or I mean, it does have a bit of flexibility, but not as much as I would prefer. But it's definitely an alternative. So if you find this tape, it's easy to use, it's pre-cut, it's uniform, and definitely usable. They do come in black and white. Now, what I do prefer is a super lightweight knit fusible. And you see how it's transparent. Sometimes some people call it chiffon fusible because you will use it on, if you need to ever fuse the chiffon projects, you will use this type of fusible. So this is a knit fusible, so it really stretches very well. And I do prefer this for bias necklines more to the tape that's more rigid. They also come in black and white, and let's talk about cutting it in the next video. What I found challenging before with using this fusible is that I had to cut it freehand, because anytime I would use a rotary cutter, what happens with this is that because it's so lightweight, no matter whether you're putting the glue face up or down, let's say I cut the piece, but now when I am trying to separate it from the rest of the piece, it really destroys the tape because it kind of sunk into the mat a little bit, and it's not the type, of course, it doesn't even resemble the tape anymore. So I decided to try it using my regular technique of sandwiching fabric between two pieces of tissue paper, and it worked out really beautifully. So I'm gonna set this up and I show you in the next step what I do. But basically I cut the white fusible already, and it's exactly what I need. It's a 1/4 inch wide fusible, and if you look at the edges, they're pretty sharp. They're not like the edge when I tried to cut the black fusible. When I am setting up the fusible on my tissue paper, I also try my best to establish a grain line. And if you can, if your mat is big enough, cut it in a single layer. But my mat is not big enough for this, or the fusible is too wide. So I am cutting it on a double. You just have to make sure, follow the guidelines for your perpendicular and parallel lines. So you don't have a big bump here when you unfold the tape after you cut it. So my next step is to kind of cut off the first edge. So I'm following again, I'm using, you know what, I actually need to grab the weight. I think it is going to be better. So I'll be back in a second. I am now set up to cut my fusible tape. So I have my very lightweight fusible that is sandwiched between two layers of tissue paper. Now I'm cutting it on fold. Try not to, I just have a very small space and my cutting mat is not long enough to cut this with fusible. But if you are cutting on fold, make sure that the glue part is facing out. So I've already cut one straight edge. Now I'm using a metal ruler because it's easier for me to control it when I am actually cutting it. Then I have a plastic ruler that I am using to establish the width that I need for my tape. In this case, it's 1/4. And I also changed the blade for a new blade, so make sure that it's sharp for these type of projects. So now with paper, it's a lot easier to remove this. And I'm gonna cut a few of these strips so I don't have to set this up next time for my project. I'm just gonna save this laying around. Maybe I'll put it on the roll or so it doesn't bend and it stays in a good shape. And I will also trying to show you a project with a neckline where you don't use a binding or lining. You're just gonna use BB hem tape in order to finish the neckline.